Hello and welcome to Music in My Life. What's in your record collection or on your iPod? Why is it there? Does it say something about your personality? And how does it affect you when you listen to it? To help us to answer some of these questions and find out the relationship between music and the mind, I have with me today a psychologist, singer, songwriter, and artist, Belinda. Stay with us and find out more. Belinda, thank you for joining me for Music in My Life, or should I say, dobro dan, kako ste?
Yes, you can say that.
So, what do you do?
I study, I work, I write music. Usually a combination of the three, depending on the phase or on the moment, it will be more or less of any of those.
Okay. And what are your earliest memories of childhood music making? Was it?
Well,
were your parents musicians?
Well, we're definitely a very musical family.
Okay.
My father plays several instruments. My mum was always singing and humming. My grandfather was always whistling. And apparently, when I was a child, I would sit on the sofa and I would do this on the armrest, even before I could actually play or really talk or do anything.
So that gives new meaning to musical chairs.
Yes, exactly. I guess it doesn't really count as a first memory because I can't remember that, but
Right.
yeah. From a very young age, I just knew that I wanted to play the piano, and music was definitely something that was encouraged and just a normal part of our family life. And my cousins, and we all played instruments and sang. And when we got together, it was just a really fun time. And so it was almost like second nature. We didn't really think about it as anything special or different. Or
When we kind of listen to music as human beings, it's like, I guess, like a mirror, really. Talk a little bit more about how you think music is a reflection of who we are.
Well, for example, you're a composer as well, and I find that often I've composed pieces that are really a reflection of who I am in that moment, in that particular time period in my life. Perhaps even on that day, or in that scope of weeks or months, however long it takes to write a composition, and it will be different from something that I would write in 6 months or a year or 5 years from then. And so in a sense, when I listen to that, I'm also looking at myself as how I was in those moments, almost like looking through a photo album. And then I think that experience is also translated to a listener, someone who hasn't composed that music but then listens to it and can feel something in that that's different from something else that I've written. And there are all sorts of different nuances of our life experience of what's going on inside that are woven into the things that we write. So I think in that sense, questions to ask are, why does this piece of music move me? And why does it move me now? And if I listen to it in a year, it doesn't seem that particular, but then another piece of music or just a section or a chord or something will just grab me and kind of hook into me. I think it can serve as a mirror in that sense, if that makes sense.
So should a composer not revise his or her piece of music? Because it's a snapshot of their life at that particular moment. So you go off and you start making revisions now because you think, okay, I've discovered a brand new chord somewhere. I want to put it in there.
Yeah. Oh, I think it's a fine balance. I know that in history there were composers who just wrote it and never touched it again, and then there were those who would rework. I think personally I'm somewhere kind of between the two. I've never really reworked something completely.
So what would be on Belinda's iPod?
Oh,
If I don't have one, or equivalents thereof.
well, it would be Bach. There would be some Mozart as well. Oh, I love Debussy. There would be some jazz. There would be. I'm generally a fan of instrumentals, I have to say.
Okay.
I have to be in a very specific mood to listen to vocal music. Otherwise, it just kind of involves me in a way that I usually don't want to be involved in.
Right.
So I prefer instrumentals, and I love listening to soundtracks.
As in film soundtracks?
Yeah, film soundtracks. Yeah. And so that would be on my iPod, so to speak.
Great. And outside of music and psychology and Hebrew and Latin and Greek studies and whatever, you're also a keen photographer.
Oh, yes.
Right, so...
Oh, that's just another creative way that I enjoy expressing myself and just capturing moments of life. And
is there a difference between, sort of photography and music, or are they coming from the same place within?
I
for
think,
you?
well, yes, for me, I guess they kind of come from this one central place that is creativity, and then it's just a matter of which medium it's going to be expressed in. And I've also explored photography as a means of mirror, in the sense of why do we take the pictures that we do? Why are we, for example, if you're leafing through a magazine, or you're in London, you're in the tube, and there's something catches your eye. Why does it catch your eye? Why that in particular?
Right.
What is it about it? What is it about the composition of a photo that just pulls us in, and what's pleasing about it, and what not? And I think there's a lot to be said about photography on a deeper level, and I've enjoyed exploring that.
Great. Because you have some on public display, is that correct?
Yes, I did.
Where would one find that?
Oh, well, on my website.
Oh, on the website.
Yes,
okay.
yes, they have been in London galleries before,
In
but
London,
that
wow.
was a few years ago.
Okay. What's Landscapes Within? What's that all about?
So, Landscapes Within is the name I've given to a number of 9, to be exact, compositions that were composed over a number of years.
Is there a reason why it's 9, or is it just
No.
I don't know. This is some
No. I just
significant number.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, it's not. It's not significant. That's just how it ended up when I was making the corpus. That kind of reflects the reason why it's called Landscapes Within is, well, first of all, landscapes. Just like when we sit on a train, you're just looking at different things, and depending on where you are, it will look different. And so, whatever we go through, it will look different if we were to sit on a train inside our own heart and soul. It would look different depending on whatever, wherever we are in that moment. And within, obviously, because it's talking about these landscapes. So it's just really a journey, almost like snapshots into the complexities and the nuances of what actually happens to us in our daily lives. It talks about, struggles and challenges, and, about fear and despair sometimes, and hope and joy and enthusiasm, and all these, the plethora of experiences.
Okay. And what are the instrumental pieces?
Yes, instrumental.
Instrumental. What are the instrumental forces in it? Is it just
it's strings and winds.
Right,
A
okay.
bit of percussion. Yeah, basically. Yeah,
right?
that kind of a setup.
Okay. So you're hoping that the listener
Yes.
experiences some
Yeah.
different things in
Yeah.
yeah.
Because the way that it's structured, it's really a movement from light to darkness, so to speak.
Okay.
And it's, starting from these lighter emotions, experiences that we have, and then kind of moving into the darker ones when we actually come across serious obstacles, and then how we deal with that, and how it, what it does to us inside. And then in the end, it comes out into the light again, and it's ultimately about hope, I think.
Right.
So I'm hoping that the listener listening to this can really identify with, at one time or another, with one or several of the compositions, or, because I think that under all of that there is a common, there is a common thread to, yes, we all go through these kind of things, and this is just one particular way that one particular person has expressed it.
Great. Well, I'm really interested to hear landscapes or some
Okay.
aspects of it.
Okay.
And so we're going to swap places.
Okay.
And I'm just going to enjoy an afternoon of evening, morning, whatever time you watch
Yes.
this, of music. And I hope for not one of the landscapes isn't sleep.
No,
Otherwise
it's not. It's not.
You might have to wake me up.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Look forward to it. was really just very atmospheric, and used a lot of my favourite chord progressions as well.
Oh, good, I'm glad.
That's really nice to do. So what was that piece all about?
This one's just plainly called The Waltz, and it's kind of 2/3 into the whole landscapes corpus. And it's just about, I don't know, whenever I listened to this piece after I wrote it, I just had the image of someone who's gone through a lot in life, perhaps probably, in the later years, just kind of sitting in a sofa and just kind of reflecting on what's been, and just kind of how that's shaped, and it's not necessarily a sad song as such. I think it takes note of the struggles and the challenges and just those moments of beauty and of contentedness that are all kind of usually intertwined, and it's just a savouring of the past, I think.
So how do you kind of achieve that sense of, I don't know, nostalgia, looking back and reflection? I mean, what musical elements, for example, would you do, would be associated with that within the actual piece itself? I
didn't actually compose it with that in mind.
Right,
I didn't actually
okay.
sit and go, well, what would evoke
right,
this?
okay, so
I just wrote it, and then later, as I listened to it, I became more aware of what was actually in it, so to speak.
Okay.
But I don't know. Maybe you could tell me what the chords were that you think evoke those kind of.
And for me, when you got these sort of clash type chords, you had this kind of chord. Yeah. See, and that's unresolved, isn't it?
Yes.
So you wouldn't typically finish a piece.
Yes.
Well, a jazz musician would.
Yes.
But you wouldn't typically sort of finish a piece on that. But where that was going next, you felt that almost, I don't know, tension, struggle,
You're
and
on
just
the
looking
edge,
back. You're on the edges, right? And then it resolved, into something and so forth. And then, of course, the shifting around of different tonalities, different keys, and so forth.
And I quite like this bit then, where it's the first time, and then it goes into this, but then the second time, and then it goes there, and then you don't know, and then it goes. I quite like that.
Are there any other pieces? I enjoyed that one, or just bits of other pieces that you can actually share, and what?
Yes, there's a piece. Actually, one of the first pieces is called Space, and it's just really, it's Debussy-like, and it's just kind of really spacious, and starts with a fluttering, like, and then that goes into. And then there's a whole bit that goes in, but then I think my favorite in that piece, it comes down to really this chord progression. And that's kind of the backbone of the whole thing, and it keeps repeating in different ways, and that's...
Great. If you didn't tell me that you had written that, I would have asked you, is it a Debussy piece? So yeah, it's quite successful. Of course, the opening, we're using all the black keys. Obviously, that's inspired from Eastern music,
yes,
because the use of this 5 notes pentatonic scale and so forth.
Yes, very much.
Great. I'm itching to hear another. just one more. You can.
One of my favorite. This is actually the last in the piece, and I think this kind of encapsulates the whole journey then, from the beginning to the end. But it starts like this. And then that theme actually continues through the whole piece.
It's almost hymn-like, that melody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that has that bit somehow where it goes into this, and I don't know. That's actually one of my favorite pieces. That one, because it kind of goes through the whole. Kind of summarizes everything, and so each section of this composition is like all of the other pieces kind of put into it. And another one, the one that comes just before that one, is has this melodic theme that goes. It actually starts with this thickness, and when I was actually writing it, somehow it wasn't enough to just be this or just the minor or just that. It had to be all of it. It had to be so thick that it was, and then it just kind of moves, and then it's got a flute solo on the top of that. And then again, and then the chorus of that goes chorus. I mean.
It's almost film-like, actually. I can almost sort of see the scenes in the film.
Can you hear the orchestra? Can you hear it?
Can you hear the orchestra? I'm itching.
Yeah.
Great. Well, that's absolutely fantastic.
And it's always interesting to hear what other people have to say about, just the friends that have heard my music so far, and just bits that they notice, and it's actually interesting because then in that sense you hear how it is a mirror, even if it is more in a musical sense of this is more Debussy or this is more there's a bit where it goes Rachmaninoff in one of the earlier pieces. There's a distinct section. Doesn't that remind you of him?
Yes.
And then, but as I was writing it again, I wasn't thinking, oh, Rachmaninoff, but then later someone would go, oh, look at that, and I'd be like, oh, yes, and it makes sense because that's all somehow in us, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And we don't even realize when it comes out.
Absolutely. We're products of the environment, the music environment, and everything we actually hear. It's in there somewhere. And in the moment you said you're doing a PhD, that's in
ancient philosophy.
In philosophy, okay. And my understanding, it's in human conceptualization in the pre-Socratic philosophical era.
Yeah, that sounds very complicated. Yes, basically, I'm interested in understanding what the human being is, in terms of body and soul, or how do we imagine what the human is, and why do we think that it's that way, and what kind of factors influence one way of thinking, one conceptualization, or another.
Right, and you also did Hebrew studies. Yes. So I mean, putting them both together, you get something quite spiritual there, because of course you've got the Hebrew, the Old Testament, which talks about man. Yes. So is there something within your faith which really sort of led to this kind of
but it was
desire
more.
To understand?
It was more of, I think this question had kind of surfaced over the years, but then it kind of led me into all of these more structured programs of academic study. But because the question is always like, who am I, and who's God, and how do we connect, and how does this work, and why does it work this way or not, and all these kind of questions that kind of roam around this one central question.
Okay. Now, well, putting that all together, I think we should do a song.
Okay.
And I think if we just put all that together, something in Hebrew, which maybe in the Man of the Psalms, which was about connecting.
I thought you would say something like that, so I've actually brought along just a little bit of something that we could use.
That's serendipitous, wasn't it? Okay, well,
I had a feeling you'd do something like this.
All right, so I'll be
like
the King David on a harp.
Okay, very good, very good. I can't promise any dancing though, but let's see.
All right, A minor, good key. Apparently they used A minor a lot in
all right, well
music.
let's see how it goes.
I don't know, we'll just start playing the thing.
I'm just going to hum along in the beginning, and we'll just see. Yeah. We're going Latin now.
Well, I just love making music on the spot.
Yes, me too. One of the perks of being a musician.
Indeed. Well, listen, really grateful that you've joined me for Music in My Life.
It's been a pleasure, Ken.
And it's been most insightful. And most Eastern.
We should do this again.
Indeed. Today we've gone a little bit deeper about the power of music and how it affects not just the emotion but also the intellect. Somebody once said, one good thing about music, when it hits you, you feel no pain. So go, take some time out of your life and sit down and just enjoy the sound of music. I'm going to take a leaf out of my own book. I'm going to enjoy some myself.